Hello, Kieran here. Something a little bit different this month. You're about to listen to my catch-up with my friend Andrew Fozzy Maddock, who was the backstage guy during the period of FWA we're talking about. He and I recently collaborated on a film project, as you'll hear about towards the end of this podcast, and we set aside an hour to talk about his memories of the FWA and his time in British wrestling in general. So sit back and enjoy our chat, and I'll see you again at the end.
1, 2, 3, 4. FWA, 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 FWA.
Show, gotta steal it. Show.
I couldn't ask for a better start than that. How you doing? We're trying to work out how long it is since we've seen each other.
You said 10
and
years.
It might be nearly 10 years.
It is. It's 10 years, and then before that was another 10 years.
It's embarrassing, isn't it?
It's just what happens when you move on in life.
Yeah, move on, grow up. Well, I grow up.
Yeah.
No, I don't grow up. You do, apparently, is what I meant.
I don't think we ever grow up, brother.
No. So, I don't want this to be an interview like the other ones we've done, but I'm going to start with our basic interview question. Like, how did you become a wrestling fan in the first place?
I think just the Sky effect, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
We got DJ Cat and Sky TV. You know, the family leveled up. We were, a child of the 80s, and got into WWF Superstars, and actually we got rid of Sky for a while, and then we moved into a new house, and then I got back in time just for the Final Four, and that's when,
right.
and then WWF mad, got into WCW, all that good stuff. But a lot of people talk about their dream matches and stuff. I was never really interested in the matches. I was only ever interested in like the stories and the promos and stuff. And then started seeking out like Power Slam magazine and learning about Paul Travell. I remember I was obsessed with Paul Travell because he'd read magazines, and his old first gimmick was like a Peter Pan gimmick. Wait, at least I thought it was a Peter Pan. He used to wear like his green outfit. He was like, who was it? He went to Japan and he did Spriggan, Amazing Red. Like, it was like kind of like, but he had like a weird. But the first time I ever met Travell was at the first ever FWA show I went at, and I was like, oh my god, it's Paul. And I marked out Paul Travell, and he was like, so we were like good buddies since then. Like, I was marked out for him. But I remember like, because we'd be like the Heat Machine people at the front row.
Yeah.
We can go into that, but
so the Portsmouth TV tapings, when they did some in London, and I remember seeing you in the front row. Were you a trainee? Were you training at this time?
Yeah. So I left school, and I had no idea what I was going to do. I was obsessed with getting into wrestling, and just as I was leaving school, the Power Slam, EWW and FWA had done like a joint show, and I can't remember what it was called. But
was it the one with Sabu on?
Yes, and all that sort of stuff.
Evil
and
Intentions
I remember
in Halifax, I think.
Evil Intentions, that is it. And I was obsessed. And I thought the EWW stuff was awesome because you knew about ECW from being at school and downloading stuff on the internet and buying tape. Like I bought a couple of tapes, not of Strong Style, but of someone else. Anyway, I was obsessed. EWW, but I remember I emailed Brian Dixon. I found Brian Dixon's email address online, and I emailed the All-Star email address. I was like, we could do a super show. Like, I had no money. I had nothing. I wasn't like, I was just like, we could put on a show like FWA and EWW have done. And no one probably saw it, but I thought, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. Brian Dixon, who I didn't even know at all, is going to email me back, and we're going to put on this show together, maybe at Fairfield, Croydon Hall, whatever. And obviously I haven't done anything. But anyway, there was Alex set up the wrestling school. There was at Sobel, and then they moved it to this warehouse in Finsbury Park, and that's when I started going. And I remember, I went, and my thing as a big fat 16, 17-year-old, I was going to be a pro wrestler. I was going to be a wrestler. I remember turning up, and I did training, and it was like a little social club. Like you pay £10, and you mucked around in a ring. But with the first week I turned up, Alex was like, "We've got a show on next week in Acton. You're near Acton, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Do you want to help out with the ring and stuff like that?" And that was it. I was like, "I've made it." He's asking me to be involved in the show already. I've got my daughter by me. Yes. Yes, you can go and get a snack. See, this is what happens when you move on in life.
See, this is the one that grew up, not me.
Yeah, the one I know. There was the first time so Acton show happened, and that was the first time I ever met Barry Sharalambus, who, and I know that Barry's, because I listen to the show. I love this show, by the way. Barry is Barry. I love Barry to death, right? And he did it. He had his part in FWA history. Like, you can't ever take that away from him.
Oh no.
So Barry picked me up because it turned out Barry lived 10 minutes away from me, right? So 16-year-old kid standing outside an Esso petrol station, and he turns up in his Jeep and he tells me to get in, and then
with all the engine lights on. Every time I got in that thing, there was an oil problem, a steering problem. It was out of petrol, the works.
Yeah, it was brilliant. But like, that car, that Jeep took us around the country, and I've got stories about that Jeep too. But we went and picked. But there's things. The first time I met Elazar, who unsung hero, R.I.P. Elazar, one of the best people ever. I'm sure you have done all this, but like, FW wouldn't be FWA without Elazar. Like, and you can't take that away from anybody. He was an absolute legend. But I remember we were driving with Barry, and I'd not been very far into London, for example. I'd been into central London, but like, suddenly he's telling me we were driving to South Kensington to pick someone up, and I was like, oh my God, what the hell? Are we going to meet with this, like, gazillionaire or something? So we met Elazar. We picked him up, and then we went and picked up the ring, and it was just me, Barry, and Elazar. So obviously, Muggins here is then loading up an effing ring to take to Acton, and I remember sitting in the back of this lorry with a wrestling ring and thinking, have I made a massive mistake in my life? It turns out I had, but that was only evident a few years later. But I got into wrestling with the intention to do wrestling, but anyway, it became more like, beyond that. But we got to Acton, helped set up, and then the rest of the kind of ring people turned up. So there was Dean Peppers, there were these other guys, I can't remember there was a guy called Jamie, and another guy, and they were very possessive. Like, they didn't like the fact I was there, I don't think, because I came part of I was told to like sit in the front row and be a plant, basically. And you were like, you're gonna help the wrestlers with, because Alex had that, the storylines in mind. He knew he wanted the people to cheer and people to boo, and they knew they were going into new territories, and people were turning up to these shows. They were just turning up to watch wrestling, right? They didn't really understand the storylines yet, because the TV was only on in Portsmouth at this stage. It wasn't nationwide, so they needed to have, people to kind of like give the fans. But I remember I used to give myself like a massive headache. Like, I would like last 2 matches, and then I would like be sitting there. But if you watch the older shows, when you get further into the shows or deeper in, if you ever notice, like, obviously I'm not like someone that they zoom in on or whatever, but if you look closer at certain points, I'll be sitting with my head in my hands because I've given myself a splitting headache because I'm just like shouting so much and stuff. And plus, I spent the whole day before that eating junk food and putting up the wrestling ring and aggravating the wrestlers, which is what the most important bit was, that I was just there to fucking annoy people. But yeah, Acton was the first ever show, and I remember Chris Nowinski was on that show.
Yeah,
and I remember because we were driving him around as well. We went and picked up him, but I remember like getting him to sign an 8x10 for me and telling him he was my favorite, and he was like, "Oh, thanks, man." And I was like, I hate the word mark. I am a mark, but like, it was so good. Chris Nowinski was a legend. He was a good guy. But,
So, from the training, have you had matches?
Yeah.
in front of the paying public.
Yeah,
the people actually paid money to see you wrestle.
The Bruntwood Inferno. I did an FWA Academy, Portsmouth Academy Rumble, where I got chopped the shit out of by Birchall, and when you watch that, basically my whole gimmick, the whole thing of the match was that I got in the ring, and then Birchall just beat the shit out of me to get him over as a monster, and then they threw me out, and I was all over it. And there's pictures of me somewhere, and I've just got welts all over my chest. And then Alex, if you in the footage, and I don't have the footage anymore, but there's Alex sitting in the front row, just like beaming, smiling, looking at Virtual, going, "Money," because at that point he was massive, like he was just an absolute giant, and all the rest of it. So yeah, but everyone knows my nickname is Fozzy. So and that came about because I was actually I did Fozzy's first ever website for the UK. I did the Fozzy Rocks UK website.
Right.
And because through that, I got sent tons of merch. So I got T-shirts and everything. So I would always turn up to training in like a Fozzy shirt, and people would be like, "Oh man, where'd you get that cool shirt?" And then people start, so Brian, Reimer, right. What was his name? Frank Reimer from Dropkick. So the FWA London school didn't last for very long because I don't know, Alex didn't pay the bill or something happened. So we all end up going. So Darren Burridge ended up getting everyone to go to Dropkicks, which is run by Tony Scarlo, very legitimate, old school. Dino Scarlo's father. And actually the only man that's really ever paid me decently in wrestling. And Frank Ryman, they ran the school. And so Frank Ryman couldn't be bothered to learn my name, just called me Fozzy. And also I always had cropped hair back then as well, and I ended up growing out a bit, but he used to call me Fozzy Bear because he thought Fozzy, he was like, "Oh, Fozzy, like Fozzy Bear from the Muppets." So I was Fozzy Bear for a while, so that's why, and that's how the nickname just stuck. And I was Fozzy for like forever, for like most of my life.
That's how you were first introduced to me, because we met at the Star Search thing, and I assumed like you like have been working for the company for ages.
Yeah, I've been there. I think by the time Star Search happened, I've been there. I mean, it had been at least.
I think it's only about 6 months after Acton, though.
No, Star Search. No,
yeah,
that was after
Star Search
Uprising.
is late 2002.
Yeah, that's after Uprising 1, right?
No, it's just before.
Okay, because it was at least a year and a bit. It couldn't have been 6 months.
Maybe I'm getting my years mixed up.
Because there was a period I had a hiatus outside of FWA. Me and Alex fell out, and there's a big old story there. I can't really. There's lots of stories about Alex, but yeah, no, I remember Star Search, John Atkins, who was the best podcast, and the greatest guy. Star Search was an interesting one because that was. Did you guys you had to pay to be part of that, right?
Yeah, it was like 10 quid. Of course it was. It's an Alex Shane joint. Of course
it was like literally in the little hall behind Alex's house, and I was like, but these are my wages, Fozzy. I can't possibly pay you.
And then when I was getting paid wages, he told me I had to pay the commentators out of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
Cheeky bastard.
Yeah. There's lots of. I mean, we've all got a story.
So, what were you actually in the FWA to do? Because I remember, once I actually started doing stuff, you were kind of the webmaster.
Yeah. So Ellen, I was doing the website at first, and then I started to take, because I was obviously I did that for. I left school and I got an apprenticeship working for the benefit of New Labour. I was a New Labour child. I got one of these like wacky apprenticeships for this like website design company, and so I started doing the wrestling. And really, I was just a job's worth, and I was just like helping out backstage. So I would help coordinate stuff backstage. Eventually I did get into like helping with promos and stuff like that, writing stuff, and I got to produce a couple of bits and bobs, but mainly I just wanted to be helpful. So I would be at the shows, and also I did the website, and I'd do writing, and then obviously like Frontier News, which I got involved with Sanjay and stuff like that. But I was just a kind of like a jobber basically that would just do anything. Like, so Brent Town Hall, when I think it was Carino no-showed or Loki, one of the two, and
it was Carino when he's
because me and Barry waited at the airport for him. So me and Barry sat waiting at the airport. He didn't show up, and then they got Jake Roberts to come in, right?
Well, that was also So that was also the show that Jack Xavier was advertised on as Carino's tag partner, but he was on holiday in France. And Alex had just assumed he was going to turn up for the show.
Yeah, I mean, that happened a lot. But like with Jake Roberts, so I would do things like I would be Jake's chaperone, and this was when he turned up absolutely off his face, and he was like, gave me 20 quid. and was like, go across the road and get me a bottle of Bells from the Asda across the road. And I was just shocked he knew an Asda, but then you remember that he lived in the UK, so he knew what an Asda was. So I was just like, because all Americans don't have an idea what's going on. Like they're just there, they turn up to the show. So I go across the road, I buy him a bottle of Bells, and I get change, right? Because back in the day, you got change for things in that kind of era. So I came back across the road, Brent Town Hall, got back. As I got back inside, he's already outside trying to have a pee, and there's fans down the thing looking at him, and Drew McDonald, R.I.P., had to come out and be like, get in, son, like pulled him inside, and he's laughing. So anyway, he's like, you got my Bells, and I handed him his bottle of Bells, and I was like, and Jake, I got your change, and he was like, keep the fucking change, and I was like, no, I was like, felt really awkward, and went to give him the change, and he was like, fuck you, and he tried to fight me, and then Drew held him back, and then he was like, then he basically got really emotional, he was like, you're a brother to me, and he was hugging me, and I was like, oh my god, this is like Jake the Snake, this is like, but that's the sort of stuff that I would do at the shows. And then obviously the website, when Carino made his return, when Carino, came back to confront Alex at Brent, like I was the guy that was keeping I was basically keeping him hidden the whole day, and then I had to be the guy that opened the door for him to come out. Me and Carino were like proper sweet, and I like helped sell his merch. And again, he was a sweet guy, like he didn't have to do it, but like paid me like 150 quid selling his t-shirts. I was like, oh my god, I'm like gobsmacked. This is like the most money I've ever made in wrestling.
Yeah, and that's 2004 150 quid, not 2026 150 quid. Yeah.
But at the show I was mainly backstage and doing like one time Alex he lost an earring. He lost one of his earrings when he had a street fight with Jack Xavier. Do you remember he had the big fat street fight at Broxbourne?
Yeah,
it was amazing. Like I think the thing is about Alex. Anyway, we won't go, and I can knock him for a lot of things, right? But I will say that there were some really amazing things that they did as a show in general. But like that, I remember that street fight being absolutely incredible, and him coming back and like being really walloped. And I remember seeing this like speckle of light on the floor because I was out. We were trying to keep people away and stuff like that. And I remember just picking this thing up and putting it in my pocket. And he came back and he was like, oh, my fucking earring. It was this diamond earring. It cost me X amount because I had to tell everyone how much it was worth. And then I was like, oh, I found it. And he was like, oh, thanks, Fozzy, you're the best. And then that was the show where I was like, can I please have the money that I'm owed to do the website? And he's like, but these are my wages. And I'm like, but I literally can't afford to like eat right now. I'm genuinely like so poor. I was promised this money for months. But that's webmaster, but then trying new things. Like me and John Atkins tried to do the podcast, and then I said someone got legit injured, and then everyone got pissed off with me on the UKFF. But then now that's like a completely acceptable thing to say. So we were ahead of the time, I have to say. But
even as a podcast, you were ahead of the time.
Yeah, because it was like a downloadable thing. Like it wasn't like you could just listen to it. And like me and John had a great time sitting in his flat in Putney. We'd have a little cheeky GBK back when that was affordable, and then we'd that, and then John would serenade me with wrestling theme songs on his guitar until we fell asleep. Like I'd sleep at the foot of his bed like a dog, and then he'd play like bow now bow now, and he'd play like DX and stuff on the guitar. Absolute legend.
What a lovely relationship.
Oh yeah, no, I love John dearly, and I helped him record his first ever ukulele video, and I remember that he'd put his old time ukulele guy stuff on, he'd be recording, and I was like, what is he doing? And then look at him now, it's like
it worked, didn't
legend. He's the guy, like what a gimmick.
Yeah.
But I got to just like. Yeah, just brush shoulders with the guys and like build up relationships with them, and obviously now you know what wrestling is like. But then from FW, I ended up getting involved in the first year of IPW UK. With He Who Shall Not Be Named. And I booked the first year of IPW. People can't take that away from me. It was shit, but I did book it.
Yeah. So I was kind of aware of that, but I didn't know how public that was.
It wasn't. I'm a dirty secret in wrestling.
My one IPW UK question is: did you come up with the Iron Fist match?
No, but this is the thing. I can say I booked the first year, but what I would have to do also is kind of take direction from
Yes.
He Who Shall Not Be Named.
Yeah.
And I remember this one time there was this, we were doing this feud with Aviv Mayan and Steve. There's the German guy,
Steve Douglas.
Steve Douglas, yeah,
Yeah.
really lovely guy. And he wanted Aviv. He was like, it would be really impactful if Aviv came out. This is the only time my life was like, we're really not doing that. Be impactful if Aviv came out with a gun or a knife. And I was like, have you seen your audience yet? But like the Iron Fist match, I kind of.
You're
the
in
thing is
Orpington,
now,
everybody's got a fucking knife in their pocket anyway.
I know, a gun or a knife, and I'm like, Aviv, of all the people, Aviv Mayan, like if you were like, okay, I'm going to take like what was this? There was a couple of characters like we had people doing happy slaps and stuff like that. You can maybe get away.
Yeah.
So we had Flaming Red and you had the Trav gimmick they were all doing and stuff like that. And obviously you wouldn't be able to call it that now. But the first year of that, like I tried my best. The best thing was I got to do my like this is the dance kind of speech for each show, which I always wanted to do. This is a dance. But like he would book these wrestlers and like he'd be like, right, I booked Robbie Brookside for the show, and I'd be like, great. Do you understand that Robbie's not going to do anything, like not in a bad way, but he just doesn't suffer fools lightly.
Yeah.
And he's not going to do nonsense crap. He's going to turn up before his match, and he's going to work his match, and he's going to go home.
Yes.
And he's like, no, we need to do this promo, and he's got to do this. And then I'm like, okay, well, none of that's going to happen. And sure enough, Robbie Brookside turns up for his match. He's very professional, gets changed. He's like, what am I doing? Who am I wrestling? How long is it? And goes out and kind of does what he does. And he was booking like Phil Powers and stuff like that, and they've all got their own issues. But I mean, back to FWA, because this is really what this is about. Because the best.
I guess, how would you characterize your relationship with Alex Shane at the time?
At the beginning of it, I looked up to him, and you again, he's the guy you saw in the magazines and stuff. Like he to me was a real life, so that he's a celebrity. Like I'm impressionable 16, 17-year-old, kind of trying to get into wrestling, and it was really positive, the things that were coming out. Like, I'd never been to a live wrestling show, for example, and then for my first, I had been to some WWE shows before that. Apologies, like I had, but like sitting at the top and not being part of the action.
But they're not going to put you in the front row and ask you to help with the ring.
Like British Wrestling Revival. Do you know what I mean? Like that was incredible. Like I did all day on that ring. I used to go into the TalkSport studios and help direct the calls and stuff like that, and so for me, I was like, what, this is actually going to like lead to something.
You're sitting like Revival, you're opposite the hard cam, aren't you, with like Ross Jordan and that? Like, it's your face in particular when they announced Dynamite Kid at the end.
So
good.
I've got cause again, like being the big mark, I had a Hawaiian a Japanese shirt, like a blue shirt, like Japanese lettering on it, probably said something completely ridiculous. But I remember I started to kind of wear that to shows. Like I started to wear that, and so like I was going to get myself over as like sign guy or something like that. But obviously Revival was me. Flaming Red. So I was Flaming Red, who took the pole driver off Ulf. That was originally going to be me, and I shit myself, and Sloan swapped it. Sloan was like, "No, not you," because there was no reason for it. He just decided that he was going to have a bit of a power trip, and like. But I'm glad I didn't, to be honest. No, I'm not glad, because what happened with Red when he got to go backstage and properly meet Dynamite. And so, because he got backstage, and then he got chatting with like Eddie and Dynamite and everyone else, and I was like, fuck, that could have been me. I could have been like best pals. Instead, I had to like hang around with Brian Christopher, RIP, but it was a bit of a character, dick. But
nobody has a nice thing to say about him from that show.
No. So, and then if anyone's told the story about him slipping the Mickey so he spent most of his money on taxis. Right. I can't be sued. He's dead, but it's true. That's the story.
The main story I heard was he kept trying to convince Eddie Guerrero to go out on the piss with him. Recovering alcoholic Eddie Guerrero.
I was there as that was happening, and he was like, "No, brother, I'm just going to get my stuff." And it was Elazar took him for a Chinese, and they actually all went. I think Elazar took Eddie Guerrero for a Chinese. Brian Christopher went out with someone from one of the papers, not Simon Rothstein. It was someone else. Anyway, he slipped.
Patrick from the Daily Star?
Possibly to him and someone else. Yeah. But he slipped something in someone's drink. They got knocked
Oi.
the F out, and he spent because he was staying at Barry's hotel, and he spent all of the night in a taxi trying to find out where he was to get into the hotel. That's the story that I heard from
Yeah.
3 different people. But I was there for the interaction with him and everything.
Yeah.
He was very much like, no, brother, I'm good. He was very quiet, and he was the
Yeah.
nicest guy, like honestly, the sweetest guy, and had time for everybody, and wasn't a prick about it, and obviously, so yeah, it was evident he got back into WWE really quickly because it was just like sorting himself out.
Yeah, it was that like indie run was kind of like him serving his penance.
Yeah.
I think like as soon as he comes back, they put the Intercontinental title on him, and then even after he's won that, he works the first 2 Ring of Honor shows because he's like, I have to honor these bookings.
And he'll say, "Got on that juice, brother."
Also that, yes.
Yeah, but your question to me with Alex is that my relationship with Alex got with everybody like back and forth. I was a young kid as well. Like, get me wrong, like I know now, looking back as a 42-year-old man, how immature I was at that age and how I could rub people up the wrong way. But with him, if you didn't have something for him, then he quickly lost interest in you. But that's most promoters. Like, let's be honest. Like, but all the other stuff that came out later on down the line, obviously, again, but as an impressionable kid, you're not sitting there thinking this is, it's wrong. Yeah, you are sitting there thinking this is a bit weird and a bit wrong, but you don't, a lot of people have got these stories. Like, it's funny, like when you look back and when I actually saw that all that movement happen in like the COVID kind of period, I was not surprised. I was kind of, very relieved that all this stuff had finally started to come out. My thing is that I suspect that he's probably still profiting off wrestling, and that kind of rubbed me up. But what can you do? So
yeah, I'm not digging because I don't want to find him, but I have heard there is still an involvement somewhere, and it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, but he would do that because he would set himself up with things. So if someone had an idea or something like that, what he would do, like, oh, we could promote this on the wrestling show, but I need shares in the company. That would always be, I need shares. But it's smart. Like, he would leverage the opportunity into ownership. And actually, when you look back on, you look at the hustle culture and what people were talking about, he was miles ahead of other people. So it is what it is. But I respect the fact of he took risks in wrestling. The thing about the ticket prices, I remember when he told everyone the ticket prices were going to £60, and everyone was like, "What the fuck are you doing? You're fucking mental." He took those risks. And in a way, when they did promote shows, there was elements of it where he was putting risk forward. There was his money, I'm sure, going into it, and so I try and look at it from both sides. But I do look at it, there's many things about.
I'm never gonna rag on his ambition, because without him wanting to push things forward, everything would be a Dixon show.
The wrestling wouldn't be as where it is now. Him, Sloan, Elazar, Dino. And there's so many other people like that deserve a bit of credit. It might have been funny, like strong. It sounds stupid, but Strong Style Tapes. If he wasn't sponsoring shows and putting the table up, there wouldn't be a community of people going and trading tapes at his shows. There wouldn't be money to put. He would pay for wrestlers to come over because he benefited.
And then they kind of when they had to like bin him off because of the Ring of Honor thing, like they ran into a bit of trouble. I think. Wasn't that when Barry started like getting more financially involved?
Yeah, exactly. But when Barry promoted the acting show, for example, and lost money on that. It's but that was the thing. Greg Lambert, another person that can. But this is what happened. It was this cyclical thing of like, who's next? Who can we bleed dry?
Yeah.
But that was people were willing to take that risk, or were willing to drink the Kool-Aid. I was willing to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
We all were. Yeah. But with Alex, complex character. We're not best friends. We never will be. But I did look up to him, and I don't anymore. So.
Yeah, I think everybody did for a bit.
Yeah, but this is the thing, but that's how it works. I mean, like, you thing, but it was an exciting time. The FWA was like, again, who'd ever seen anything like that, especially in the UK? Like, things like having fireworks at shows. Like, I remember, like, the first time we were testing the fireworks at Uprising and stuff, and being like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, I actually missed the first ever Uprising I wasn't at. because me and Alex had fallen out with a big falling out, and I wasn't at that show. Yeah. And then I was back in the mix. I missed out on season's beatings as well, which is really annoying. No. The round robin tournament and stuff like that.
Yeah. Eddie's favourite tournament of all time until he finally does his 1,000,000-man 5-star wrestling tournament.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
You've mentioned him a lot. Let's talk about Barry Charalambous.
Yeah.
Because to me, I mean no disrespect, he always seemed like he was the busiest man in the world, but doing fuck all. He seemed like he had his finger in every pie, was really busy, had 1,000 things going on, but was also just sitting down having a joint whenever I saw him.
Well, it's funny you say that because Barry wasn't a smoker until a bit later on, actually. So Barry was when
I was editing
when the TV
when
the TV was happening, he was all in, like no pun intended. But and that, but yeah, but Barry is a person that would give you the shirt off his back. I honestly mean that. Like, there's been times where like we've been stranded places and he'd get in the car in the middle of the night and come and pick us up. And and I'm not just saying that because he's my friend. Like, it's legit. And you're right in what you're saying. Like, especially in the early days. But I think the thing is because he promoted the shows, he put money into the shows or whatever, right? So his thing was like, well, he wasn't there to part the ring. He was there to put money.
Yeah, I've given you my money. You're not getting my energy as well.
Yeah. And so he wasn't going to do that as well. So yeah, he would sit smoking. But he would do things like in the early days, like he was going and driving people up. People were staying at his hotel for practically free. They were staying at his house for free. He was doing a lot for helping. He was paying. He was getting flights for people and sorting that out. So he was in the same boat as us. And then obviously when, he has ambition, he wanted to, he started editing the TV and everything else. And he was doing that. And then the thing is with that, that's when he wasn't getting paid, like, you went through the same issues and stuff. So then obviously the work levels go down on that. But Barry had a big part to play in like the early influence of the FWA. It's funny when you say that he was always very busy, but not actually doing a lot.
But not doing anything. Yeah.
But I love that. That's what I loved about him. But he was also getting incredibly frustrating.
He promoted the Harrow shows as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he promoted SAS. So me again.
I was going to get onto SAS later. I mean, Harrow FWA shows.
Oh yes, he did. Yeah, he promoted the High School Hell. That was okay. So that actually, to be honest with you, now you prompted my memory. High School Hell happened, and I actually, because that's down the road from me, I never went to the show. Right. I found out about the show, and I know I've seen all the posters and everything, but I couldn't make the show. I think it was on holiday or something like that. And I remember being like, I'm dead. I've got to go to the trains because now they're doing shows in Harrow. If I get involved, I'll be able to kind of wrestle in the main event at the Harrow show.
Yeah, the hometown hero.
I'm just going to go. I'm going to learn how to do wrestling in like 2 weeks, and then I'm going to be world champ. I'll wrestle Paul Travell in the main event of Harrowmania. But obviously that never happened. The reason why is because Dino smashed a window.
Yes.
With a cricket bat, and they were banned from the venue. And I believe it's Harrow High School still banning wrestling. I think we tried to get into Harrow High School. We SAS. We went to Harrow High School with SAS.
So let's
but
so SAS is SAS Wrestling. That was Barry's promotion.
Yeah,
and I kind of described it a little bit as like it's a little bubble universe, wasn't it? So like people didn't necessarily do their normal character when they were there.
Yeah, you're kind of right on that. Like Rockstar Spud, I think started. No,
yes.
Did it start? Did it start at SAS though? But he did Rockstar.
I think
Spud.
It might have been. Yeah.
Jack Storm, like had a different. So he was always a heel, I suppose. But
yeah, I think wasn't that when JC Thunder started doing Radikanenko there?
Yeah, and then so there was Sandrick von Ellering III, who was my favorite gimmick. And then you had there was loads of really random. Yeah, there would be loads of random. There was an idea to do like a guy that would just come out and clap everyone's hands and then just go to the back. Yeah, there was going to, because the idea was that we would get, because the original shows, there was like wacky posters. We were trying to do like Pro Wrestling Guerrilla with our wacky names and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was like the third year anniversary Super Show, and Bring Your Jeans, and it was like a GTA theme, which I love. Bring Your Jeans, it's a street fight.
That phrase still gets used today.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. It's brilliant. I think Jack nicked that from like NWA or something like that. But yeah, that was fab. SAS was the kind of like the kind of redhead stepchild. We got in the local papers because someone, Sanjay Bagga, called the local council and said we were trying to put on bare knuckle boxing matches. And so the newspaper,
I don't care if he ever hears this. He's a fucking prick.
No,
I hate that guy so much.
Is another guy. I have to give him respect because he's still promoting shows and selling them out. Because he does the fundamental thing that people don't do with pro wrestling shows, which is do postering, flyers, and draw people to the building, like, you know. So he's doing that, and you can't take that away from him. But he's also a piece of shit. But I think he'll probably tell you that too. I think he would probably happily admit that. But he's got his thing going. Fair play to him. But I'm convinced it was him because because we had Martin Stone on the shows as well, and he told Martin that if he worked our show, he wouldn't book him. And then that got a bit weird. And
was that the point when LDN was on TV?
Yeah, maybe something like that. But someone did, and I'm convinced it's him, called the local paper and said we were putting on bare knuckle boxing fights, and we had to put posters up to say if the police came that we're not running bare knuckle boxing fights, it's a wrestling show. Because we were doing it at this little Cedars Hall in South Harrow somewhere. It was like before we ended up moving.
Yeah, it was a really. So I never got to go to any live, but I saw some video. It was a really small place with like an interesting setup, like it's SAS, so it's like army themed.
Yeah, that was Pinner. That was Pinner Village Hall. So it started off as a place called Cedars Hall, and then it moved to Pinner Village Hall because Cedars Hall got shut down. Watford FC bought in. It's like a youth hub now.
Okay.
And then they moved it to Pinner Village Hall, and then from Pinner Village Hall they did Harrow High School, and then they started to do like Wolverhampton and do. Actually, I think Wolverhampton was probably the last show that he promoted on the SAS.
So what were you like? Writing, booking, promoting.
Yeah, I was helping in the first in the first year of it, but then I just kind of like there was a bit of a business disagreement. So anyway, we're less about. But we're cool now. I mean, maybe it's me and not other people seem to fall out with people. But
yeah, shit happens. I didn't speak to my best friend for about 3 years, and then there was the big reunion.
Well, they would call us. We were like an old married old couple. People say because me and him would like we became really close friends quickly, right? And we would like fall out over the stupidest shit, and like we would get back together, and then it'd be all fine. But like we still bicker like an old couple. He lives in Cyprus now, and
but that could be the best friendships.
I know. I miss him dearly. Like we had the best times. His daughter and my daughter are at the same age, and like it's funny actually seeing how close that me and him have a very shared sense of humor, very dark sense of humor, and like they've got that same sense of humor. It's quite interesting. It's quite cool to watch the dynamic play out. I think they're going to be a tag team one day.
And Barry's now out promoting in Cyprus, right?
He is, yeah, and
but only like a couple of times a year, not very often.
No, it's trying to get something going for sure. Okay. It's just difficult. I think it's a market that they're just trying to. I think I've never been out to see one live yet. I'm going to the next chance I get, but they're trying to figure out. Wrestling's not a big thing out there, so it's kind of one of those markets where, like, actually, if you watch some of the shows, there are people that are like looking at it like it's real and like fuck him up, kill him.
Yeah.
They'd like break his fucking neck. They've got a guy, Spencer or something like. He's got an amazing gimmick, like really flamboyant, kind of like Adrian Street, and he's going out and he was playing like the like that kind of that kind of
that traditional
music.
Yeah.
And Zorba the Greek, and there's a guy in the audience, and he's like, "You cannot be Zorba the fucking Greek. You are not a fucking man." And he was like getting really angry at him, like it was legit he, like, or awesome. I shouldn't use the word legit, but it was legit he, and because he didn't like the fact this effeminate guy was doing the Zorba the Greek, and it's like, God, that's money. Like, you could draw some people because people want to go and see someone like that get beat up out there.
Yeah.
But he's doing his thing out there, and it's all good.
So I'm trying to keep this FWA centric.
I know. I'm sorry. I was just going on.
It's fine. It's fine. It's good. Tangents are good. Stories are good. Do you want to talk about Dino? Should we talk about Dino? How far do you want to talk about Dino?
Dino, I could. Yes, Dino was the thing is, Dino. There's stories about Dino, some about not Dino. Dino was always good to me, kind. As far as I'm concerned, a kind man. We used to go to his market stall in Walthamstow. I used to find it very funny that he just sold all these random things on the market stall.
So he wasn't a fruit and veg man.
No, he had fruit and veg, and then he was like, it was fruit. There was some fruit, but it was mace. Let's be honest, right? They were getting job lots of something from somewhere that they had to get rid of. But like within that job lot,
some stuff just falls off lorries.
Who knows? But like there was random stuff being sold. But he is really lovely guy. But Tony's guy was something I could talk about a lot more, because Tony was a guy that ultimately, like, we did training with and stuff like that. And he was just the nicest, completely polar opposite to what you expect from Dino, if that makes sense. But
I have to say, so I don't think I ever met Tony in person, but I've never heard anybody in wrestling say anything bad about him.
No, the man, an absolute legend, and he had great stories as well, because he legit did it. Like he did wrestle World of Sport, he wrestled Dynamite. It was great. Like they'd have Wayne Bridges come down, and that was funny though, because like Frank Ryan was part of Dropkicks, would be like, "This is Wayne Bridges. He wrestled Hulk Hogan in front of 50,000 million people at Madison Square Garden," and we were like, "Oh my god, this must have been on a videotape." And like, it's like he never did that. Like, but
let me just check Cage Match.
Yeah. Tony was a legend. Sloan. We could talk about Mark Sloan. Do you want to
talk about Mark Sloan? Would you like to like, this is your open forum. I don't have direct questions.
I'll tell you about this. So when we did the London, there was a London training school and the Portsmouth training school, and a lot of people won't know about this, but like, obviously the Portsmouth training school churned out some quality people, right? And the London school churned out some fairly decent people. But,
so the way I heard it characterized was Portsmouth would churn out the wrestlers, London would churn out the characters, the talkers.
Kind of, but there weren't.
And I think that reflects the head trainers.
For sure. Because like the thing about Sloan was an individual for sure, but he invested in that wrestling school.
Yes.
But
apart from the toilet, which was fucking horrible.
Apart from the toilet, was fucking horrible. But like the facility was amazing. I remember the first time we got up, because it was a big rivalry. London and Portsmouth was the rivalry, right? And I remember the first ever Academy show, we all turned up, and we went up to the FWA Academy in Portsmouth, and we scribbled like FWA London rules on the door, and like and then people were going nuts. But he had this unit in Fratton, and there was another unit across that he'd like purchased or he was renting, and he was keeping it secret. No one was allowed to go in. It was called Project X, and everyone was like, "Oh my god!" And this is where. So basically, he had an idea. And I don't know if I'm giving away his IP now. He'd bought the 6-sided ring, right, which was a motherfucker. But he had this idea. Like eventually, I got to go into Project X. But me and Sloan, like, he didn't like me at first, and to be honest with you, like, I didn't like him, and I always thought he was a prick to me. But then I look back on it, I was a fucking really immature, annoying kid. But
I think, sorry to jump in, but like wrestling kind of does that to people.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, it did to me, and it's fine. But like he ended up like kind of warming to me. Is what I was trying to say. Is like he could see that, like, while I wanted to be a wrestler, I was never going to be a wrestler, right? And he kind of did give me the reality check. So I remember one time he was like, what moves are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to do the cattle mutilation. He's like, do it then, go on. And I couldn't even fucking do the bump. Like, he was like, you're not putting in the training. You're not doing it. Like, it's fine. But stop defeating.
Yeah.
And he would let me come to like the weekend camps and stuff for free. Like, he wouldn't charge me money.
One good thing I would say about Mark Sloan is I could always count on him to be honest with me.
Yeah.
Whereas Alex would blow smoke up your ass and would tell you a pack of lies every 5 minutes. Mark Sloan, I don't think I've ever known him not to talk straight.
Yeah, for sure. But he'd also want to control a situation completely, and that would there would be weird things that would happen where he would like, you have to go here and do this at this time, and you'd be like, no, I'm an adult, I'm going to go here and do this when I want. But at the same time, I think I get it now. But
yeah.
But anyway, I got into his good graces, and I was allowed to go up to the facilities and, whenever I wanted and everything else. And I would travel up to Portsmouth and stuff. But I remember getting in to see Project X for the first time, and it was a 6-sided ring, and there was 2 platforms at either end of the ring, and they were having these secret training sessions, him and the kind of hardcore, because he had those generations He was trying to do Ultimo Dragon. He was trying to do Toryumon.
Yeah, he was big into Toryumon at the time, which is why he got the 6-sided ring, because they did T2P.
Yeah. But it was but the whole thing about the generation things. He would have Generation 1, Generation 2. But he was teaching, like, he was like his third generation. He would have the Entourage and everything else. But they had this thing where that was 6-sided ring, they could wrestle, but then they had these 2 platforms either side they could do spots off. And that was going to be the big thing. Right. And it was almost going to be a trampoline on each side, and it was like fucking mental. But I just remember that
halfway between Ultimate X and that French stuff where they had trampolines on the outside.
Yeah. And but again, he was like coming up with wacky ideas, and they ended up never doing the thing. But he did do the 6-sided ring, which which everyone was marking out for at the time. This was before TNA, because obviously they
it was.
Toryumon as well.
It was. Like, I think the only place in the world other than the FWA that had a 6-sided ring at the time was Toryumon.
Yeah.
I don't think even AAA had even brought theirs in yet.
But so many good times. Like, again, Paul Travell. We'll go back to Paul Travell.
Yeah.
Absolute. I've lost contact with Paul. I'd love to chat to him again. Like, we'd sent so many, like, putting rings, because he would get down and dirty with us. Like, he was when he was in the family and everything. He was still. We'd be sitting in the back of the van, driving to shows, fucking doing body slams onto the fucking mat. So like, he had this gimmick where he would buy a pasty from the shop, and we'd be driving to shows, and he would put it he would heat it up and he would put it on the front of the car, because he had a theory that the sun would beam against the thing, and it would cook the pasty.
How he's not dead from food poisoning? I don't know.
He's not dead from a lot of things, like going up to the Morecambe shows, like Dirk Feelgood saved someone's life outside the Morecambe show. There was a man, he had a seizure because he's a legit doctor. Yeah. He was in his gimmick, and someone had a seizure outside, and he went out and saved the guy's life. He was a heel.
In his gimmick, as in the green spandex. So before he did the doctor character,
just after the show, he ran out and he helped the guy and everything else. And there were people. I remember, like, people were booing him, being like, "You're the baddie," and he was like, "Fuck off!" It's just so many like weird and wonderful stories.
So. The only Morecambe thing I remember, and I don't know if you remember this as well, there was a time when I had come into London to do, I think, something with you, and we ended up having to go back to my place to pick up my stuff, back to your place to pick up your stuff, and then we went to Victoria Coach Station, and we got a coach to Manchester. And we slept in Manchester Station on a bench.
Yeah.
And then we got the first train in the morning to Preston.
Yeah.
Where Greg Lambert picked us up.
I remember.
And we went on DJ Pep's radio show that morning to promote the show with Greg, because that was where he was going. And then Greg drove us to Morecambe, where we put up the ring, because at that point there was a ban on the wrestlers putting up the ring. And John, the ring van man, quite rightly said, "I'm paid to drive the ring to places, not to put it up." So because there needed to be a show, the website guy and the TV guy put the ring up.
I remember you were livid. It's not my first radio, but you were fucking livid. Yeah, I remember this. Yeah,
I was livid because I'm trying to. I've got camera people to organise and the TV show to put together, but nobody else was going to do it. So we put the ring together, and then I remember in the first match, Zebra Kid gave 5-star Flash a superplex off the top rope, and I remember just hearing the bang of a board dropping out of the ring and hitting the ground underneath it, and they never asked us to put up the ring again after that.
Yeah, no, I remember this. Only reason I remember I wanted to go, I was desperate to go up, was because we started doing Frontier News, and I made some money that weekend, brother. That was the first one we did specifically for Morecambe.
Right.
We did a little black and white printed off one for Morecambe. We made a bit of money. But yeah, I remember that. Yeah, there were many times where we like had to do wacky travel or get stuck places. I mean, outside of FWA doing the wrestling, we went and did from Scott Conway TWA wrestling. And we went all the way up to Margate to do a rumble at the end of the show, and I got Doug Williams beat the shit out of me, threw me out the ring. I was literally in the ring for I literally waited there I did 5 minutes travel up to Margate. We all missed our last train home. We had to sleep in the train station, and then but then our tickets had run out. And I remember getting on the train, so then the little money that I got paid off Scott Conway we then had to pay a fine.
Fucking hell.
But it was all worth it. Like,
was it really?
No, it wasn't. Yeah, like, yeah, if you're traveling, yeah, it was furthest was. We didn't do. I mean, I've travelled up to Scotland with Alex and stuff when he would do like training up there. And this was before ICW and stuff. This was whatever ICW was before that. But the furthest I travelled with FWA would have been those Morecambe shows.
Yeah.
Because at that point, when they started going further north, I wasn't part of it anymore. But yeah, it was some wacky travel.
Yeah.
Mostly making the last trains on the tube, because it would be like Broxbourne or Telford. They were
Telford. Yeah, I didn't do any of those.
Yeah.
I was sort of lucky because I was usually either with Phil or Amy who were driving, because I had camera gear and stuff. Like, I couldn't lug all of that on trains and tubes and stuff. So I was lucky in a sense. I usually got a seat in a car.
Yeah.
Apart from the time that Phil's got stolen in Newport.
Yeah, that doesn't make. R.I.P. Modge, by the way. I need to take.
Yeah,
he's another guy. First time I ever met him was No Surprises in Portsmouth, and Kendo. We booked Kendo Kashin. Randomly, Kendo Kashin turned up, and he was already off on one because he was like, "Fuck this show," doing being a legend that he was. And Kendo Kashin came out, and I swear to God, I've never seen a man so happy in all of his life. But then David Taylor came out after that, and he realized he was wrestling David Taylor, and then he was like, "Oh fuck!" and he went absolutely nuts. But he marked out for Kendo Kashin, and it was the best moment I've ever seen in my life. And that's when I was like, me and him will get along. And but he had like this gimmick, like everyone was like, because of the way he was, people wouldn't approach him and stuff. Whereas me and him were always very cool.
He is the way I described him was like, he's the most creatively offensive man I've ever known. He and I always got on great. And in actual fact, as we're recording this, I will be going to his funeral in a few days' time. He was always really lovely to me. And I remember I told a story about one of the Brent shows where Drew is unveiled as the leader of the family. And Drew, so Modge absolutely hated Drew McDonald.
Yeah.
Drew's music played, and Modge got up and walked out of the show.
Yeah. I was backstage for that, and I remember, actually, I think it was Alex was super pissed off that happened, and he was like, but that's the reaction that Modge would have wanted, because if you'd known he'd pissed off Alex, he would have been very happy.
Absolutely.
So yeah, no, I mean, he held the FWA to account, and
as any like public facing entity should be held to account.
I always said to him that he would be like a good ring announcer and stuff like that, or a manager, and then he ended up doing. He was 4FW, ended up getting involved in 4FW for a while. But
he was a ring announcer for a long time.
And but again, some of the things, like some of the best characters in FWA were the people that were like, it was like ACW, like it was like there was these peripheral people everywhere that were just part of the show.
Yeah,
and actually they lost that a bit as it moved on. And they I don't think they turned those fans away, but people kind of got bored with the bullshit basically, and were like, oh fuck it, we'll find other things. That's why IPW popped up.
Yeah, like there's only so many times you'll try and stroke a scorpion and get stung, I guess.
But people kind of realised that there were some bad eggs as part of it, and I think everyone wanted to have that kind of feel of ownership around it, and I think in the early days there was that feel of ownership, and then as it got slowly eroded, and then it is what it is. But it ended.
So tangentially related to the FWA, should we talk about Colt Cabana's European vacation?
Oh man, let's do it.
Well, tell me, like, how did you end up getting involved, like, doing that? What was it like?
Yeah, so the Uprising 2 was Cabana and Punk's first match over here. Yes. I was the one that, because Alex was like, who should we book? Americans, and I was like, CM Punk and Colt Cabana, they're doing these matches, and I showed them the matches, and then they booked.
So the story I was told is that Alex thought he was getting Chris Hero, and then was cheesed off when Cabana showed up.
No,
really?
I don't know. I remember sitting with Alex in his house and playing him IWA Mid South or a match they'd had together, because Colt Cabana did the ISI moonsault. And he did it in that match as well, and Alex was, oh yeah, that's really cool, and they booked them. So I don't know what that story is about, but that my recollection of it is, personally for me, I was like, you need to put these guys are the guys. And then me and Cabana, we got a lot of I got along with Punk as well. Punk was funny, like, because he stayed in Harrow, and there's a funny story that he was being, so Punk was by himself in a WH Smith reading a power slam, and this guy called Biggs, who he ended up helping me film some stuff at Uprising 3, but he studied at Westminster Uni, and he came into WH Smith and was like, "Oh, you're CM Punk," and he was like, "Yeah, and taking pictures." And, you know, that's a random story, but me and Punk hung out a lot during that weekend. Raven, but that was another weekend. But anyway, me and Cabana got along. And then how I got involved with the European vacation stuff was because I was already doing, me and Barry were trying to set up some filming stuff, and I'd already filmed some stuff of Carino, and Carino had already bigged me up to Cabana, and we already met and stuff. But I was already doing a lot of design stuff, and Cabana was coming over for his European tour, and I designed his T-shirt. There was a T-shirt he made because he had the smiley face logo, and I did a British flag smiley face logo.
Right.
He packed it on a T-shirt. I never saw a penny.
That was my next question.
Yeah, no, I didn't see a fucking penny. But what he did do was, so I filmed all the European, the original, the first one. And I don't know if that's available anywhere, but I filmed the first one, and we filmed all of his matches. So he did matches in Scotland. He did one in Birmingham, London, and I filmed them all on a hand, and it was like a handy cam, and everything was filmed on that. And that's how that first one came about. And then, you know, and then I worked in he was staying at Barry's the whole time while he was on that tour, and I worked in a pub in Harrow, and he would come in and we would hang out. And we were quite reasonably close and stuff like that. And then obviously, like, money gets involved, and but that's that's how the first one. This was I remember him like telling me that he wanted to do, like, he wanted to diversify into, like, interviews with wrestlers and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. And then obviously he does his podcast, which then becomes
that worked out right for him, didn't
that
it?
was the podcast, you know. That was the original podcast. But yeah, that was a fun experience. I mean, like, you know, going around and filming stuff. But I did a few of those. So we did like a Raven.
Yeah. Do you do one with AJ as well?
Yeah, the footage for that got kind of watered down, but yeah, we filmed loads of stuff in a car with him, with Tony, who they're still very close to this day, and a really cool training session up at Future Shock and stuff. And so what happened is that I filmed loads of really cool stuff for Uprising 3. So I was trying to film a documentary on Uprising 3. Now I had these guy Biggs, these people were studying film at Westminster Uni, and they all came down with me, and I paid them a few quid, and we filmed. Well, Alex ended up stealing one of my cameramen to film get a hard cam shot for Uprising. He didn't have enough cameras, but I was backstage with a camera for the whole of Uprising 3.
Yeah.
Like Terry Funk doing like 150 press ups, like loads of stuff, and it was a really open, like, was getting loads of really good backstage footage. So I think Bagger bankrolled some of it, So anyway, when I decided I'm getting out of wrestling, like, everything's pissing me off, Bagger purchased all of my footage from me.
Right.
But then the Uprising 3 footage, Sloan ended up buying it off Bagger, and that never saw the light of day. But that was some amazing. If anyone can get hold of that footage, there was some incredible stuff in that. There was Birchall interviewing Birchall, because this was just after he got signed, and I, don't get me wrong, like, I loved Paul, but the difference between him a month before he got signed and a month after he got signed was night and day. And actually, there's a famous story, and I wasn't there for it, but he wrestled that show. D'Lo Brown was on the show, and there was a big schmoz happening, loads of stuff happening. And I remember hearing that D'Lo had said to someone, "That guy's gonna go far, but he knows it." But if you'd met him, the guy from Guildford that would drive to shows with us, and we would drive around, completely different guy, and then suddenly his hair was grown out, and he was a bit. Something happened, but I get it. Like, you've just been signed by WWE, you're the shit now. Like,
you don't have to deal with this shit anymore. I mean, I remember that we talked about it on the podcast, the horrible show in that leisure centre in Enfield, and it was a conversation, I believe, between Paul and Dino, when Paul was like, "I'm off to Italy next week, where they treat me like an actual wrestler and a real star. Here I'm putting up a ring so 60 people can come in."
But the other thing was, if you watch Uprising 3, you see him come out for his entrance with Dean,
Yeah.
And there's a bit where Dean goes to walk, and he goes, "No, stop," and Paul stops. But it's because he knows, like, he's got it. He at that point he's going WWE, and he knows. And that's not saying Dean didn't know TV. Dean knew his shit. Like, Dean was great, like freaking great manager. Like, I know he's retired out of wrestling now. I think he did a retirement thing for him and stuff like that. And bless his soul. But I remember, if you've watched the footage, it's very. And I remember vividly now, and I'm not seeing it in a while. But he says to him, "Stop!" Like, the camera, we get in the entrance, then he goes forward, and it's a kind of cool moment, because it's like that is kind of him getting it, sort of thing, but his manner changed. But like, I'm sure he's changed now, him doing well, but
people's attitudes to him changed as well. I remember on the day, like, people were almost scared to talk to him. Or if they did go and talk to him, they either really wanted to talk about him getting signed, or that was the one thing they were trying to avoid.
But he had an air. But then I remember, like, months and months later, like, I remember, because we'd all on ICQ or whatever, and talking to him online, and he was telling me, like, how amazing Paul Heyman was, and he was loving AEW and stuff. So he was a bit, but I think that particular weekend he was the man that weekend. So, but Uprising Freeze. But if anyone can get hold of that footage or find out how you can get hold of it, there's some gold in it.
There are so many people's lofts I would like to go through to get a hold of FWA footage I haven't been able to get a hold of.
Interviews with, I mean, like, you know, the thing is, with Barry, like, he had tons of, like, DVs and stuff like that, and it'd be amazing to get hold of some of the stuff. And there was, like, matches, like, saying about me wrestling and stuff. There was matches when we wrestled for, what's that, Brawl?
Oh yeah, British Real Action Wrestling League or whatever
really
it was.
Bad. Yeah, it was wrestling for Brawl. So there's loads of footage there. But no, it's a lot of fun.
I'm kind of running out of prompts. Like, is there anything you want to vent about? Anything you want to talk about? Any stories you've got bottled up you've always wanted to tell?
No, you know what? It's funny now I'm on the spot. I get so many, but I can't.
Yeah.
I mean, my favourite one is the Jake Roberts one. I mean, like, it's just the best. So, the bomb scare, Uprising 2, and Homicide. Be like, what the fuck's going on? Like, he was, like, really pissed off because he wanted to go to sleep. Backstage, Loki once tried to beat me up because he thought I stole gimmicks, and Christopher Daniels had to pay him. So, again, part of my little jobs and stuff like that, I was helping with the t-shirts, and he counted his t-shirts, and there was a t-shirt missing, and he thought I'd stolen a t-shirt, and Christopher Daniels, who knew me from before, knew that I wasn't that guy, and ended up, like, giving Loki some money. But I'd either fucked up something, or whatever, or he'd miscounted. But that was scary, because he was a scary guy, like, legitimately scary guy. But yeah, I mean, I think I've told all the stories that I could tell for now.
Have you?
I'll be back another time, but
when you remember some more.
I know. I took too many chair shots to the head, brother.
Should we talk about the other Barry? The last time we saw each other 10 years ago when we made a film together.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Yeah, no, obviously. Yeah.
So I've alluded to it before, but I've not made it public to the podcast audience, I don't think. Like, we kind of kept in contact over the years, and I went and saw you do, I can see the poster on the back behind you, the Me Plays, your monologue, basically.
Yeah.
And
so I got into acting and writing.
Yeah, we should actually mention that. Yeah, that you're also an actor.
Yeah, well, I'm not anymore. I mean, just another thing I left behind. But no, I mean, I got into doing acting. I was teaching drama to kids and stuff like that. And then you came and watched me. Thank you for coming. Come and watch me in the show. And you asked me to do your film Barry, which is still online. You should watch it. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I was just like, I went along to support my mate, and then I saw the different number of characters you managed to do over the course of an hour or whatever that show is, an hour and a half. And I was like, we met in the bar afterwards, like, we need to do something together. And then I remember I sent you a script, and the first thing you said was like, this is perfect for an actor because I haven't got any lines to learn and I'm the only person in it.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Like I said, it's my birthday weekend, so I was getting pissed all weekend. So I just turn up with a hangover and just like...
I forgot about the hangover.
But you learn a lot through wrestling and stuff like that. Like, being part of wrestling, and that helps a lot with acting, to be honest with you, because you're watching people do really bad promos.
Script writing. I write my scripts. Shine Heat, Come Back Home.
Yeah, watching people do really bad promos was like, watching Homicide in Japan, my finisher is banned. Like, and you're like, that's not how to. Actually, I won't talk shit on Homicide because I don't want to get beaten up. But
yeah, you don't talk shit about a man whose name is literally murder.
Yeah.
All right. So apart from Homicide, like, who's the worst promo you've ever had to watch live?
Oh man.
Both
yeah.
pre-taped and in front of an audience. Like, who has absolutely died in front of a live crowd?
Oh, do you know who's in the family there was the guy with the longer hair. Oh, what was his name?
Brandon Thomas, the original guy.
Thomas, yeah, bless his soul. And then the other guy, Ian De Silva.
Yeah.
They couldn't cut a promo. Scott Parker wasn't good at a promo either, but he was a great guy, but couldn't cut a promo.
No, he wasn't a promo guy. He was a decent worker though.
Yeah.
Lovely bloke.
I remember Scott Parker and Alex Shane did the show on Revival, and they did the gimmick off the thing. It was really cool. I just remember thinking that was like legendary. But yeah.
Every new room we went into, it was Alex's thing wasn't you could get a ring in here. It was what can I jump off or what can I chuck someone off?
Yeah. I mean, but that's what people want. That's what the people wanted, brother.
Yeah. Did you pay your dues catching people as they were thrown off balconies?
No, I never got to do that actually. I never had to catch anyone. But I did get to break up a few fights. So like when the boxer, who's the boxer that then they got
Danny Williams.
Danny Williams. I got to break that up.
We can see you on the footage. You're one of the people holding back Alex.
Yeah. But me and Barry got some of the best of those. We obviously that got into the Daily Mirror, and there's me and Barry in the Daily Mirror holding back. And then like obviously Barry's mum was like, "Oh my God, you've made it! You're in the Daily Mirror."
All of those pictures are taken from my camera footage.
Yeah,
because I was asked to provide photos. The guy, the paper didn't like the photos the photographer had sent them, so I sent them a load of stills. And then there was a completely unrelated still from a Mike Tyson brawl that was also put on the page. Makes no sense.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Makes no sense.
But yeah, no, we did Barry, which is a lot of fun. People should go and watch it.
Maybe I'll finally link it. Like it's a statute of limitations has passed.
Yeah, you should link it. Put the comments on as well, so people can body me in the comments.
Fuck no! I think I'll turn the comments off. So, what was your last involvement in wrestling?
IPW. No, SAS. SAS was probably the last time I was like kind of like involved in wrestling, but like I kind of left it behind, and just needed a change, and I don't really.
And that's like 20 years ago now.
Yeah, and I don't. Obviously, the product now it's amazing because like you look at it's really vibrant, and you think if you were involved in it now that you'd probably be making there's probably a chance you could make not decent living, but I don't know.
You could, if
we
if
paved
you were
the way,
smart,
brother.
you could make enough to live on. Yeah.
But I really respect what the people are doing now. I think again with social media and internet and everything else, I think it's much easier for people who want to take a risk and go ahead and do it. I think back in the day, like it was a lot harder. Like the podcast thing. I think if me and John were around today doing a podcast and it was FWA as it was now, where you were able to have that medium, you'd be seeing like. It'd be great, like because it's happening now. You've got these guys that wrestle things, I think they're called, and they do proper podcasts. They're a bunch of guys. They sit together, and I watch little clips because I still keep like Tate Mayfair's, who was a lovely kid back in the day, and he's like obviously doing amazing things now, and he's incredible. Like he's got himself in really good shape and that sort of stuff, and it's amazing because he was just like this like scrawny kid that was like bunking a visa to go to America to his girlfriend, got banned from America or something. I shouldn't say too much, but
but like you talking about like the social media and the online influence, you even like back in the most recent British wrestling boom, you had WCPW, which came out of like YouTubers.
Yeah.
And they were getting big stars.
The one thing I haven't seen yet, and maybe someone's going to nick this idea, but I haven't seen like with the rise of influencers and stuff, right? It's someone who wants to start as an influencer in pro wrestling and be first pro wrestling like training and being an influencer and actually get your gimmick over, and before you even had a match people have been following your career, and then when you go out to have a match you might actually get a load of people coming to watch you.
Interesting. I think that only works if you're a decent wrestler and can talk. Like
but
if you turn out to be shit, then people aren't going to follow you.
The only other person I can think of is like this Logan Paul now, but like that's a completely different story, or this like Speed if he ends up doing wrestling, because these are the people that I know. I know more about these guys than, as well as I've got kids as well, I know more about these people than I know about the actual wrestlers. For sure. Like,
do you still how much wrestling do you still watch?
I don't. I tried to watch I tried to watch Mania, and I was like, oh no, this is naff.
That was well, it didn't help that I was ill, but like WrestleMania was a horrible experience for me,
Yeah,
especially that first night. It was dog shit.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the product. I mean, I'll try and watch AEW. I might go watch it at Wembley just because it's down the road,
Okay.
but just to get pissed and like be there. Like I'm not paying more than like 40 quid for a ticket, that's for sure.
Well, I've already got a ticket, so let's bump into each other before you get too drunk.
Yeah, well maybe I'll do that then. It'll be good. Yeah. I have to go because I've got the children behind me, so I'm going to have to shoot. But
all right,
I'm sorry.
All right, no worries. Just quickly before you go, have you got any public-facing projects you want to get out there anywhere on the internet you want to be found? Are you happy just like living your life?
No, I'm happy living in relative anonymity. But go stream up Barry, and then this other film that you've made. Honestly, everyone, and he's probably going to talk this down. This guy is an amazing filmmaker, and he's going to be doing more stuff. So
I'm a mediocre filmmaker.
He's not.
I'm cracking on. I'm getting
Genuinely
close to 50 years old, and I still haven't made it.
I watched this thing that I just did a little bit of voiceover for him, right? And I was marking out because I thought he'd filmed it on this like really expensive camera. He's like, no, I did it on an iPhone. I was like, I just got worked. I literally just got worked.
You're too kind.
No,
Go be a dad. It's been lovely to talk to you again, mate. I'll see you soon.
Buddy.
Hopefully in Wembley.
Mate. Big love,
bye.
man. Bye.
So there we go. Great to catch up with Andy. He's right. We hadn't seen each other in 10 years. We could have talked for hours, but we had limited time before he had to go and do dad stuff. We mentioned in the middle, Modge's funeral. Modge, for people who don't know, was a huge fan of British wrestling, a friend of mine and Fozzy's since the early 2000s. He was a ring announcer. He promoted shows. He was a big fan of this podcast. I would frequently get DMs from him when he was listening to a show. And he sadly passed away at the beginning of May at the age of just 43 years old. I mentioned during the show that I was going to go to his funeral, and in fact I did, where I ran into John Atkins in person, and despite the terrible circumstances, obviously it was lovely to spend an afternoon with John and all the other wrestling related people who knew Modge and share our memories of him. He will be missed. As for this show, it seems a bit trite, but let's do the plugs bit. We're on Twitter, Blue Sky, and YouTube at FWA Pod, and Instagram at FWA.pod. I am Kieran Edits on Blue Sky. I would normally plug a Linktree. However, Linktree have decided they are going to feed everything you upload into the DALI AI model. So I've pulled us off there, and you can find everything to do with this show all the way. Subscribe at fwapod.card.co. That's card with 2 R's. fwapod.card.co. Next month is back to normal with Andy, Eddie, and TV reviews, and there's 2 things you can do about it.
FWA.